Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Sports Stuff video today. We're talking about the Houston Texans and my offseason plan to get them into true Super Bowl contention. From this, they're a solid playoff team. They've won a playoff game each of the last 3 years. But let's get them into an actual, really good echelon where they're one of the best AFC teams in the league. Let's get into it. So, starting off with cuts and/or trades. Currently in 2026, they're at negative $7.9 million. Next year, they're at positive 187. The year after, positive 290. So for a team that has a lot of guys in this roster, like that need to get extended, like Will Anderson, like C.J. Stroud, like Kamari Lassiter, like Jalen Petrie, Henry 2020, a lot of guys in this roster who are starters, need a long-term extension. The fact that the future has a lot of money gives me a lot of hope that this team can get on track and kind of solve a lot of the issues that they've been having. So the first cut or trade I want to do is I'm going to be cutting Joe Mixon from the running back position. He did not play at all last year with a mystery injury they're not talking about. Woody Marks looked like a true back. They also traded for David Montgomery. So obviously with Woody Marks and David Montgomery, that's the running back room next year. So everyone that's on this roster that's not Woody Marks or David Montgomery will not be on this team next year. So that includes Nick Chubb. That includes Joe Mixon making $8 million. And I do think free agency, if he is, somewhat relatively healthy, there will be someone willing to pay him, the league minimum to come back and play for them. He's only 30 years old, so there is still a little bit more football in him. Both sides will be best to move on. Joe Mixon gets a fresh start somewhere with no prior money and no expectation of you're making $8 million, you have to play. And the Houston Texans, they now get the $8 million. They have David Montgomery. They have Woody Marks. They can move on from Joe Mixon. Next, we have Mario Edwards. I'm going to be cutting at D tackle. Last year, he had 7 tackles, 2 sacks, 5 run stops, and 14 pressures. He's more of a locker room guy than he is an actual football player. Definitely someone that embodies the Houston Texans under D'Amico Ryan's world. He's producing for 5th edge rusher. The D tackle edge position he kind of rotates between. He is producing for 5th guy on the depth chart. You can get someone cheaper in the draft though that can do similar production. I do think the team needs to move forward, and unfortunately, this was the worst year of Mario Edwards' career. So the fact that we could save $4.5 million by releasing him and kind of get someone who can do that exact same production for the next 4 years on a rookie contract, I think that's something that you need to look forward to and just kind of move on from him at the position. Then restructure. I'm going to restructure Derek Stingley. Again, I always say, when you want to restructure someone that is going to be on your team for the long term. So when you push that money back, you're not paying someone who's not on your team anymore in 3 years. Derek Stingley, as long as he keeps performing at its current level, is going to be a Houston Texan until he retires. So we're going to restructure, push that money back into and open up $15 million in cap space in 2026, making our cap space very healthy at positive $20 million in cap space. Next year, positive 82. The year after, positive 285. So not a lot of movement in the future money. But this year, opening up from negative 9 to positive 20 in 2 cuts and a restructure. I think that's absolutely worth it. I think it's something to be expected that those are the moves that they're going to be doing. So in the first re-sign I'm going to be bringing back is going to be Sheldon Rankins at D tackle. Sheldon Rankins, he had 23 tackles, 3 sacks, 22 run stops, and 38 pressures. He's a team favorite guy. When he left this team to go to the Cincinnati Bengals, you could tell that the team definitely wanted him back, that they were missing him under D'Amico Ryan's. And then when he came back, Will Anderson was like, awesome. My guy's back in this team. That's awesome. This was Will Anderson's vet with his rookie season. And I do think he's in a positional value of need. And he's very good at that in their scheme. So it's kind of keep the Will Anderson happy and also to keep their team still above water at D tackle. He's top 25 in D tackles and pressures last year, so he's still a quality starter. And I don't think you can lose all the locker room guys at once. Mario Edwards was a locker room guy. I don't think you can lose him and Sheldon Rankins on the defensive line. So I can give him a 1-year, $3.5 million deal, fully guaranteed, to come back and be that D tackle 2 or 3 once we go through the draft and free agency. Next, Ed Ingram. I want to bring back Ed Ingram from free agency. Last year, had 71 PFF grade, 76 run blocking, 55 pass blocking, 3 penalties, and 4 sacks allowed. He was great for the Texans this year. Definitely solved their issue at right guard for the long term. He's a great run blocker. He was more of a scheme issue in Minnesota. Kevin O'Connell is definitely more of a pass-heavy scheme, and that's just not what the Houston Texans are. They want to run the ball, and that's what Ed Ingram is very good at, is run blocking. He's very athletic for his size as well. So I'm gonna give him a 3-year, $32 million deal, $20.5 million guaranteed at 64%. They've made an effort in this last year and a half to change over the entirety of their offensive line for what it was CJ Stroud's rookie year. And I think Ed Ingram, what the trade they got from him from Minnesota was great value. And now you can get him for, just about $10 or $11 million a year. I think that's good for a starting quality guard. You just trade Titus Howard. You're going to have Blake Fisher coming in at right tackle. You just re-signed Trent Brown to be the backup right tackle. So I do think re-signing Ed Ingram has to be a priority to not lose everyone on this offensive line, especially the ones that performed for you the last few years. Next is going to be Damone Clark, who you signed from the Dallas Cowboys when he got cut. He had a great start to his career. Unfortunately, his injuries kind of hampered him, and Matt Eberflus's scheme was not a great fit for him. He's a sure tackler though throughout his career, so this is someone that I do believe can rebound his value for very cheap. And I want to get him for a bargain to see if you can get the value out of him. So I'm gonna give him a 1-year, $2 million deal with none of it guaranteed because I don't think he's gonna be able to get any guaranteed money. So if we can just get him back in Houston, he seems like a Dallas guy through and through. Cut from the cut from the Cowboys, goes to the Texans, and I do think the Texans could use depth at the linebacker position. No, now that we got done with the re-signings, I want to talk about a few extensions and some contract restructures that I do think need to happen. The first restructure is to be Danielle Hunter. Last year, he had 22 tackles, 16 sacks, which was third in the NFL, 3 forced fumbles, 31 run stops, which was fourth in the NFL, and 83 pressures, which was fifth in the NFL. He had a career year opposite of Will Anderson, no duh. When you're playing opposite one of the best edge rushers in the world, you're going to get better looks. You did trade Titus Howard, so that opened up cap space in 2026 and in 2027. He was a big reason Will Anderson had a massive step forward this last year. Danielle Hunter is absolutely one of the best home run signings of Nick Casario's career. I want to add onto his current contract. Currently, he has a 2-year deal, he has a 1-year deal remaining. And I want to extend Danielle Hunter longer than 1 year, because if I can keep Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter as the edges, we can kind of draft and develop D tackles and linebackers and rely on those two guys for the next few years to really bolster the front seven. So he didn't get a pay raise. So here's the contract that he had before. So he had a 1-year, $31.3 million deal, and that was it. And then he was going to be a free agent. So instead, I'm going to restructure his contract into a 3-year deal. So he goes from a 1-year, $31.3 million deal, $22.6 million guaranteed at 72% guaranteed. I'm going to bring that cap number down from 31.3 down to 22.6. And I'm going to restructure it into a 3-year, $83 million deal, $57.6 million guaranteed at 69% guaranteed. We're going to save $9 million in cap space this year. He's going to get, what is that? $35 million more in guaranteed money for the next 2 years to play opposite Will Anderson, to keep up what he's doing in Houston, and $60 million of new money. Basically, he's gonna be able to get. So I think it's a great trade for everyone involved. A great extension for everyone involved. The Houston Texans, they keep their running duo of Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter for the next 3 years. And it's a pretty good number, $30 million for a really good edge rusher. In 2026, coming off his career year, you lower that cap hit down to 22.6. So technically, he doesn't really lose anything. He's gonna, this year he's gonna get paid the exact same amount of money, but the cap hit goes down, and then you can add on 2 years to the deal. So I think it's really good for him. 3 years, 83. That's probably what he's gonna be getting in open market next year at 31, 30, 31, 32 years old. So he's gonna do it right now, get him extended, and make sure he stays in this scheme. So, speaking of Will Anderson, I want to get Will Anderson extended right now. Last year, he had 28 tackles, 13 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 33 run stops, which was 9th in the NFL, 93 pressures, which was 3rd in the NFL, and 13 sacks, was 7th. So he had 2 of the top 7 sack guys in the NFL. I absolutely want to get both of them extended for the long term. He's one of the best edges in the league, especially under the age of 25. We need to get him extended before he wins a Defensive Player of the Year. Straight up, he might win a DPOY in the next 2 or 3 years. We need to get him extended right now, so it's on a team-friendly contract when he does win it. I want him to anchor the defensive line for the next 10 years. He's explosive off the line. He's great at getting into the backfield. It doesn't always turn into sacks, but it always generates pressures, hurries, makes the running back go a little faster than the run block is letting up, so they get tackled for loss by someone else. What Will Anderson does is so important to this team. I need him for the next 4 or 5 years. And I still think this is someone you don't let touch year 4 without an extension. So after year 3, we're extending him, and he's getting a big, big bag. From 1 year, $11.2 million. So his last year of his deal, we're going to turn that into a massive 5-year, $193.5 million deal with $123.5 million guaranteed. massive number to get Will Anderson to sign 1 year early. He's going to be averaging $38.7 million a year, and that is going to be best for fifth highest contract as the edge at the edge position, just behind Myles Garrett, who is a two-time depoy. I just don't think he can get paid more than Myles Garrett. I think the Houston Texans are going to reward him with the most guaranteed money at an edge rusher position, but I don't think it's gonna be over the average of Myles Garrett because he adds that 5th year onto it. So he has a massive, nearly, what is that? Almost a $40 million a year deal over 5 years. Big money for Will Anderson. I think it's going to be absolutely worth it. As you can see, his cap hit is going to exceed over $44 million. But in 2029, you can always just restructure or re-extend him to add more money and more guaranteed deal years onto it. But this is someone that you need to sign immediately. If they are smart, they're already in contract extensions with Will Anderson. So we're going to get a massive 5-year, $193 million deal. $123 million guaranteed at 64% guaranteed, a $45 million signing bonus, the highest signing bonus at the edge position in the NFL. This is going to break the bank, but I'm telling you, it's going to be worth it because if he can just keep up his production he's been doing, he's going to be a top 3, top 2 edge in 2 seasons. And this is someone I legitimately believe can win a Defensive Player of the Year if he gets 1 year right. So we got Will Anderson extended. We got Danielle Hunter extended. We now have our edge rushers for the future. What's the next job we're going to be doing? That's right. I'm going to be restructuring Nico Collins' deal as well. Nico Collins had 71 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 6 touchdowns this last year. He is one of the best deep threats in the league, one of the best wide receiver ones, very underrated. Concussions have started popping up. He missed week 7 and part of the playoffs due to concussion issues. So I definitely do think that is a worry that this team needs to have, that the concussions are starting to pile up. But he has 1 year of guaranteed money left in 2026. I just don't think Nico Collins is going to play on a 1 year guaranteed deal, basically. I do think he's going to want an extension and a rework of his deal. So that's what we're going to give him. He runs crisp routes. He's consistently a Pro Bowl level wide receiver. And he's the last player I would extend long-term as of now. So some players that would not be extended: CJ Stroud, Henry 202, Kamari Lassiter, Jalen Petrie. I'm not touching those contracts right now. I want to make sure our edge rushers and our wide receiver 1 are taken care of. And obviously the biggest storyline is CJ Stroud not getting a big-time deal. But Nico Collins, we're going to extend him into a new contract. Here's where he's currently at. He is currently on a 2-year, $56 million deal. $10 million of it left guaranteed. Only 17% of it is guaranteed. As you can see, only $10 million of his $27.5 million deal is guaranteed. So what we're going to do is we're going to rework it into a 4-year, $120 million deal, $70 million guaranteed at 58% averaged, 58%. So, he gets a pay raise in 2026. So it gets from a $10 million guarantee, because you got to think, NFL players think of their contracts as how much guaranteed money I have left. So in 2026, he's going to get a pay raise, but the team overall saves on cap space. In 2027, he gets $33.5 million guaranteed. So he's getting a 3-year, what is that? 3-year, 369, 11. So about a 3-year, 120, basically, right? Right? Am I stupid? 30, 60, 90, 100. Oh, so a 3-year, $103 million extension. Sorry, I'm trying to work out this how the numbers worked out. So it's a 4-year, $120 million average, but it's a 3-year, $105 million extension with $53.5 million guaranteed. So he gets a pay raise in 2026 because his guaranteed salary goes up by $6.5 million. Then in 2027, he makes $33.5 million. In 2028, gets $34 million, $20 million of it guaranteed. And in 2029, the peak of his contract, it is not guaranteed. So essentially, we are guaranteeing he is on this team for the next 2 years. In 2028, we can talk about it. You could cut him, save $14 million in cap space, or you just let him play and play on that contract. But in 2029, that is the first year that you get truly a big cap savings from cutting Nico Collins. But I think it's absolutely worth it. We open up $11 million in cap space this year. Nico Collins gets a pay raise, so he's happy, we're happy, and we get our guy extended for the long term on a big time deal. Gets paid more than T. Higgins, and he gets true wide receiver 1 money because he took a little bit of a pay cut in his first deal. He could have gotten a lot more. So we give him a new deal, a $25 million signing bonus, and we're gonna say, hey, thank you for being a great wide receiver, and we're happy to have you in Houston. Here's a big time extension. So, with those extensions and reworked contracts, in 2026, we went from $20 million to $32.2 million. In 2027, we went from 182 to 145, and in 2028, from 285 to 177. So in 2028, $100 million I've now taken from that cap space, but in 2027, only $40 million. But 2028 is the first time where you're really like, okay, that's where like a new quarterback has to be on this team if CJ Stroud is not extended. So still a lot of money to work with, and we're going to use a lot of that money in this year and next year's class. So the first free agent I'm going to be signing is going to be Ethan Pocic. Ethan Pocic had last year at a 64 PFF grade, 62 pass blocking, 63 run blocking, 2 penalties, and 2 sacks allowed. He's a solid starting caliber center. Unfortunately, he did tear his Achilles last year, so I just don't think he's going to have a large market. I think he's a rehab in Houston behind Jake Andrews, and Jake Andrews is older than Ethan Pocic, more injury prone than Ethan Pocic. So it's kind of like, hey, Ethan, be our backup, get paid, solid money, and if Jake Andrews goes down, we have a solid veteran starting center that we can really rely on in a pinch. Lots of starting snaps over the last 5 years as insurance for Jake Andrews. So I think it works out for Ethan Pocic. He gets a 1-year, $3.5 million deal, and if Jake Andrews either plays poor or just gets injured, he can step in and be the starter for a very good team. So it works out for everyone involved. Next, we have Josh Jones at tackle. Last year, he had a 74 PFF grade, 72 pass blocking, 70 run blocking, 0 penalties, 2 sacks allowed, and 258 snaps. He's going to be a backup swing tackle. He had multiple seasons starting at left tackle in his career. It just bolsters the depth for the cheap. It bolsters depth on the cheap end of the spectrum. He can start at right tackle if Blake Fisher isn't ready post Titus Howard trade. So I think it works out for him. At worst, you're tackle number 3 with a very real possibility of starting day 1. And also you get paid money, a good amount of money as well, to just be that third guy, that swing guy, the red zone guy that you were kind of already doing in Seattle. So you get the 2-year, $8 million deal, $5 million guaranteed at 62% guaranteed. The next guy I want to bring in is going to be Larry Ogunjobi. Larry Ogunjobi last year had 18 tackles, 0 sacks, 0 forced fumbles, and 16 run stops. He's going to be a veteran defensive lineman who's going to come over for cheap, be that backup pass rushing D tackle. He has plenty of starting experience. He's a good run defender, constantly wins one-on-ones when it is in pass coverage. He may not have a lot of sacks, but I'm telling you, if you watch Buffalo Bills games, Larry Ogunjobi was everywhere in the pass rush. So we're going to give him a 1-year, $4.5 million deal to come over and be a veteran D tackle for us. Last guy I'm going to be signing, I don't know why his stats aren't there. So because his stats aren't there, I'm just going to read them out. He had 79 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, lots of run stops. This is still a very good quality linebacker in the NFL. Is he a star linebacker? No. But I do think he's one of those guys who's just going to, until the wheels fall off, he's going to be a solid run-stopping linebacker. But he's at 36, a good NFL linebacker, good at run-stopping. He is a little slow in coverage, so gets taken advantage of. But I would love to see him as a role player on this defense. Be that veteran linebacker who can be that run stopper, who knows how to win in the NFL, and still make a good amount of money. So I'm going to give him a 1-year, $3 million deal. And honestly, Bobby Wagner, this is more of a ring-chasing opportunity on top of being a part of a great defense instead of, a money-chasing opportunity. So that's Bobby Wagner. The other signs I'm going to be doing is Andrew Wingard at safety. Again, just a veteran, strong safety who knows how to lay a hit. Then Cam Thomas at edge. Don't know why he's 40 years old. Cam Thomas is only 29. He's going to be from the Cleveland Browns, their backup edge rusher. Last year had 2 or 3 sacks. He's a solid edge guy who just kind of come in for relief of Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. So then in cap space in 2026, you're at positive $19.4 million. So still got about, $8 to $10 million if you want to go and sign a backup quarterback, even though you have Davis Mills. If I go sign another offensive lineman, go sign another linebacker, you still can, but I'm going to let that roll over in the 2027. And here's what I do in the NFL draft. I thought this is one of my better drafts I've done. I love the value and the depth I was able to get. So let me see what you guys think. Here's my Houston Texans mock draft. In round 1 at pick number 28, I'm going to grab D tackle Christian Miller from Georgia. Run defense is his bread and butter. He has very fast and very strong hands. He does have shorter arms, so I do think that's going to make him drop lower in the first round than he should go. But Houston needs a high ceiling guy at D tackle to build around. He's a very good run defender. He had a 90 PFF grade last year. And I just think, the Houston Texans, you have Danielle Hunter, you have Will Anderson. You don't need a great pass rushing D tackle. You need someone in the middle who can just take up run lanes, and that's Christian Miller. Then in round 2, at number 38, I'm going to grab guard Chase Besantis from Texas A&M. He only allowed 1 sack and 8 hurries last year. He's 6'5", 315, and he doesn't need to start right away, which I think is very important. He can sit behind Ed Ingram, let him develop for a year, and next year he can fight Jarrett Patterson for that starting left guard position. He's a great run blocker, good footwork, good anchor, just someone that I do think could be a high-value backup at minimum and could be a great starter if he can develop. Then in round 3, number 69, I'm going to grab running back Mike Washington Jr. from Arkansas. I think he kind of fits that Joe Mixon role that they were looking for, that Nick Chubb role that they were looking for. He's a good pass blocker. He had 1,000 yards last year with a 6.4 yards per carry with 8 touchdowns. I mean, and he tested out of his mind at the combine. He ran a 4.33 40 at 223 pounds. So a 4.3 40 at 220 pounds, that's a missile. That's someone who can put their shoulder down and take out some mofos. So I would love to get Mike Washington in this system that already takes advantage of those type of mismatches. Then, so we're going to be trading back from number 59. The Texans have number 29 and, number 38 and number 59. So we're going to trade back from number 59. There was no one I was really interested in. So we're going to trade out from 59 and a future 6. And we're going to get a 4th round pick, a future 2nd, and a 7th this year. So we just kind of bet on the Jets next year being really bad. And then that's going to be a top end 2nd round pick. We got a 4th this year and a 7th. So at 103 with a trade back, we're going to grab a Dante Corleone from Cincinnati. Dante, I've drafted him in multiple of my mock drafts. He's a starting level D tackle right away. He's a fantastic run stopper. He was a nose tackle in college, but I think, he is athletic and good enough to make the move to 2 or 3 tech in the NFL. He has good side-to-sideline speed to track down runners, and you don't need great pass rushers. Again, you have Will Anderson, you have Daniel Hunter, so Christian Miller and Dante Corleone, either immediately or projecting, are going to be your run-stopping D tackles of the future, and you feel very comfortable with that immediately in the NFL. Then in round 4, at 106, I'm going to grab edge Jayshon Barham from Michigan. 6'3", 240 with a limited snap count at edge. The last 2 or 3 years, he was a linebacker at Michigan. Then this year made the switch to edge. So very limited snap count at edge. But he had a 12.8% run stop rate and a 13% pass rush win rate. He's a great run stopper at the edge immediately with a foundation to build on for pass rushing. But again, it was his first season as an edge rusher, was a stand-up linebacker every other year in his career. He does have good hip movement, obviously from being a linebacker, good vision, good hip movement, and I do think that translated very well to the edge position. But I think the Houston Texans, they can grab him, stash him for a year or two, and see what he can turn into underneath DeMeco Ryans. Then in round 5, number 139, I'm going to grab tackle Trey Zune from A&M. He's just a project swing tackle, so he can play left and right tackle for the future. He's 6'6", 320, very mobile, great pass blocker. And for a 5th round option, I do think it's good in case Blake Fisher struggles. You have Trent Brown at right tackle right now, so you don't need to rely on Trey Zune starting anywhere because you have Arante Ursray, you have Blake Fisher, you have Trent Brown. This could be in a year or two once Trent Brown's gone. This is your swing backup tackle. Then at round 5, number 165, I'm going to grab safety Jalen Stroman from Notre Dame. He's a versatile safety, snaps at strong safety and free safety every year of his career. He's 6'1", 200. He does whatever the team needs to be productive. So if they ask him to play strong safety, he does it. To play free safety, he does it. To play slot corner, he does it. And I think that's someone that any NFL team would want. Someone who's very not self-centered, is team-centered. And he averages 30 tackles a year when healthy. That's someone I think is worth it in the 5th round taking a shot on, especially because the Texans have done a great job developing secondary guys. In round 7, number 243, I'm going to grab wide receiver Malik Benson from Oregon. He's 6'1", 195. He's a big body, deep threat wide receiver. He had 700 yards and 6 touchdowns with a 16.7 yards per reception last year at Oregon under Dante Moore. I think he could take over that Xavier Hutchinson power role once Xavier Hutchinson's deal expires in 2027. So I do think that Malik Benson does have value. Maybe not this year, but definitely in the future to take that big body wide receiver 4 role from Xavier Hutchinson. Then lastly, in round 7, number 244, I'm going to grab Josh Moten, corner from Southern Miss. He attacks the ball midair to his deficit. Sometimes it kind of burns him. He's 6 foot 185. He had 10 interceptions and allowed 8 touchdowns the last 2 seasons. So as I said, he plays that hit or miss football. On a very bad team as well at Southern Miss. He was the lone bright spot in the secondary. But I do think maybe you can move him to free safety. Right? Maybe this could be a future free safety for you. You have Jalen Petrie. You have Kalen Bullock. So you definitely have safeties already. But Josh Moten, I think, could be a very valuable corner safety hybrid for certain looks. So in the 7th round, I'm going to take a shot on that because this team is great at developing secondary guys. So Entering the 2026 season, this is my projected depth chart for the team. At quarterback, CJ Stroud, Davis Mills, Graham Mertz. Nothing changes there. At running back, David Montgomery, Woody Marks, Jawar Jordan, Mike Washington Jr. Obviously, David Montgomery and Mike Washington are the two additions. I do like it. Mike Washington's more of a future play. For the role, they obviously want David Montgomery and Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon to play. Mike Washington can play that for the future. At tight end, Dalton Schultz, Dalton Schultz, Cade Stover, and Brevin Jordan. No change at tight end over the season. At wide receiver, Nico Collins, Jalen Noel, and Jaden Higgins. No changeover from last year. With Xavier Hutchinson, Tank Dell, and Justin Watson as the backups. Then you add Malik Benson to eventually take over that Xavier Hutchinson role. At offensive line, big, massive moves. Arante Ursere, Jarrett Patterson, Jake Andrews, Ed Ingram, and now starter Blake Fisher. With backups Trey Zune, Ethan Pochik, Chase Pisantis, and Josh Jones. So no backups return. Actually, Trent Brown is on this team. My bad. Trent Brown is also at right tackle. So four new additions at backups in the offensive line. You have Trent Brown returning. You have obviously all 5 guys on the starting returning, including Blake Fisher. So you add 4 more guys to this room to try and generate just better protection for CJ Stroud. So I like it. The offense, wide receiver core is very good. The running back room is improved. The offensive line is now cheaper and improved with better depth. I like it. On defense, D-tackle, you got Sheldon Rankins and Larry Ogunjobi. You switch out Tim Settle for Larry Ogunjobi. I think that's an upgrade. With Christian Miller, Tommy Togiai, Kurt Hinish, and Dante Corleone as the backups, I think D-tackle gets immensely better with the addition of Larry Ogunjobi and the drafting of Christian Miller and Dante Corleone. Because I do think they need to lean more into the run-stopping D-tackle aspect of that role and let Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter cook. Then at edge, Will Anderson, Daniel Hunter, nothing changes. With Dylan Horton, Cam Thomas, and Jay Sean Barham as the depth edges. You could add another body into that room with proven NFL minutes. Maybe you could add a, oh my gosh, why am I blinking? I have his name in my brain. Samson Ebukam. That's a solid edge rusher. Bounces around the league every single year. Generates, 6 to 8 sacks a year. That could be something you add to the room for $4 million. Then a linebacker, Henry 2020 and Azeez Al-Shaair. They're bringing back as the starters with Jake Hansen, Bobby Wagner, and Jamal Hill as the backups. Obviously, the addition of Bobby Wagner is a big deal, but that's something that can be a really good run stopper for you in a pinch. Then in the secondary, Derek Stingley, and at nickel, it will not let me add him. Jalen Petrie plays their nickel. He's that power nickel strong safety hybrid that is taking the NFL by storm. Then Kamari Lassiter is the opposite. Then the addition of Josh Moen, Jalen Smith, Tremon Smith, and a Johnny Carter. Those are your backups, and Elijah Huzzy's a backup as well. I really like that secondary room. You add Josh Moen as a high-end, shot in the dark. Then at strong safety, you have Jalen Reed, not Jalen Petrie, as a starter, with Kalen Bullock at free safety. And Jalen Stroman, I think, can be the hybrid free safety, strong safety backup. So you have 3 safeties instead of 4. That saves you a roster spot. You can have another secondary guy. You can add another edge room. I really like this roster, man. This is a great defense that gets even better, and on offense, you reinvigorate the running back room and the offensive line. This gives a team that can easily win the AFC South next year. Maybe 11 wins is their ceiling. That 9 to 11 win range is where they're at, because CJ Stroud does have limitations, and I don't think he's the answer in Houston. But if you guys enjoy, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below, how many wins does this team get? I would love to know what you think, and I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.